Well, hello everybody, as we bring together IMSA Sound and Vision on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. I'm John Hindorf in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, welcoming you to Lime Rock Park, the Bull Ring, just under a mile and a half around. We're nearby to Lakeville, Connecticut, in a beautiful part of the world, nestled into the green and pleasant land that surrounds this racetrack, and pretty much wherever you drive from, you are going through some awesome roads and some fantastic picturesque countryside. Just 7 corners here, 6 of them to the right hand side. Big Bend is turn 1, left hander, right hander, no name straight, the uphill, then West Bend, and then the downhill or the diving turn at the end of the lap. It is a challenge beyond compare to pack so much in to such a small area of land. It's like somebody didn't have a lot of room and built a scale X-Trick track, and they put pretty much everything in, including chalking it up on books and DVDs and things like that, if that makes sense to those of you who built slot car tracks on small areas in the past. We've got a fantastic list, entry list of cars split into 2 categories. The Grand Sports will be at the front of the field and the TCRs at the back. They're just rolling out of the pit lane right now, and the interesting thing to note here is that the TCRs are particularly quick in the first part of the track, the twistier part of the track. They're all front wheel drive, and they actually grip the track very well indeed. So on restarts in particular, if we see cars getting mixed up, expect to see those TCRs really hassling the back of the GS grid. 2 hours are on the clock. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter, and we will have 1 car starting from the pit lane, Shea.
That would be the 94 Atlanta Speedworks Honda. That car, I'm being told, does not have ABS. They worked overnight and through the night to try and repair the car after it had 2 moments, the second of which was a bit more severe than the first during the second practice session yesterday. But the good news is the car is ready to go out and run for Ryan Eversley and Scott Smith. And Ryan, who sits second in the TCR points, should clarify, it is a different car than the one that was out and running yesterday. It's a backup car, but it does have as many parts on it as they could possibly handle from the original. And the team car is starting second, so we know that the Atlanta Speedworks Hondas are fast. It's just going to be up to Scott Smithson and Ryan Eversley to bring it to the front.
Jeremy Shaw is in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre with me as the Alfa Giulietta goes through down towards Big Bend. Bit of history for the Alfa Giulietta. The first ever race here back in 1957 was run for MGs and for the G-class production cars, and Ted Sprigg won his class in an Alfa Giulietta. That car is quick and may well be suited to the twistiness of this circuit.
Indeed so, John, yes, and Shea talked about the fact that the Hyundais have had to add an extra 20 kilos of weight this season. The Alfa, by contrast, has been able to shed 20 kilos. So, yeah, that should be a car particularly to watch in the closing stages, perhaps, once Tim Lewis Jr. gets behind the wheel. He is fast, he knows this track well, and that could be an interesting performance. It'll be up to Ryan Block then just to make sure he tries to keep that number 5 Alfa on the lead lap.
And as far as the pit stops are concerned, 40-minute minimum drive time. The TCRs will probably go for just 1 pit stop, try and split it into 2 close to 1 hour chunks. What about the GS cars, the GT4 cars at the front, Jeremy? They'll have to make more than 1 pit stop here, surely.
Yeah, most likely. It'll depend on how much caution there is during this race, I think, for GS. This Lime Rock is not a track that is particularly hard in terms of fuel consumption. It's not as bad as many tracks on the schedule. But if it would go green all the way, yeah, they would definitely have to make 2 stops. But there's a couple of lengthy caution periods, and as we've seen already this weekend, if a car goes off into the grass or into the car wash, as Greg Ricks, the local track commentator, referred to that section of track which is just outside of the left-hander and the infield, kind of at the bottom of the hill, then it's quite likely to bring out a full course caution. We saw a couple of cars off even in the IMSA WeatherTech warm-ups this morning, so that is certainly going to be a play into these strategies here. Just one more quick note, John. Normally this season we've had a split start for GS and TCR. There won't be a split start this time. However, the TCR leaders have been told they can space themselves a little bit back from the GS back of the field.
And we come to the start now, and the green flag is in the air, and we are racing, and it is the Aston Martin, the Not Lad Racing by RS1, that goes into the lead from pole position. But Patrick Gallagher, Bill Auberland tried to press around the outside as they went down towards Big Ben, down to the end of Sam Posey straight for the first time. I'm looking back to the TCRs, expect to see them mixing it up with the back of the GS field. And already, Shea Adam, we have a pit lane caller, came in at the end of the first pace lap, and this is significant in TCR.
This is Gavin Ernstone in the 61 Roadstagger Racing Audi. Looks like he has no powers. He's being pushed down the pit lane by 3 of his own crew guys, one of the IMSA officials helping out as well. But this is one of the cars that elected to change starting tires and roll off from the back of the grid. This is a bigger issue for them, though.
94 pit lane start has been enacted, and so that blue and yellow very nicely finished, that spare car, considering they've had to work so hard overnight for the Atlanta Speedworks team. But they will have to come in and do a drive-through pit stop. That is the regulation if you don't take the start and you're in from the pit lane. And already the hood, the bonnet is up on the Audi of Roadstagger Racing, the number 61 car. At the front of the field, Pat Gallagher then by half a second. I think that counts as a gap, Jeremy, here, doesn't it? Half a second back to Bill Auberland in second for Turner at the BMW, and Hugh Plum for Team TGM in third.
Yeah, I think it probably does, because that's probably about the biggest gap we've seen all the way through, likely to see most of the way through this race. But yeah, that would be a super starter. But Bill Auberland very rarely qualifies. Just had one pole position in this championship in and this is his 109th start, by the way, just one pole in 109 starts. Qualified second today. Lime Rock, though, track position is really, really important. So I think that's why that team elected for Bill to qualify and therefore start the car in this race today. I think that's a smart call. They tried that a couple of years ago. Bill qualified fourth on that occasion. Ended up finishing 10th, so they're going to hope for a better result here. That number 95, Turner Motorsport BMW, that's the car that leads points.
Problem for the 51 Copeland Hyundai, the bright orange car with severe right rear damage, heading on to No Name straight now, and that Copeland car, I'm afraid, now the wheel has dropped back into position, but he must have suspension damage, considering how badly out of whack that was. That's AJ Muss in that car, and he surely will have to come back in to the pit lane. And there's been more incident as well with the 1.7 Audi being turned around. That's the Chris Miller Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsport car. Now that at least has got pointing back in the right direction as the yellow flags come out. And with only 3.5 minutes completed, we are already under full course yellow at Lime Rock Park for the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. Lime Rock Park 120, and a number of cars, Jeremy Shaw, limping back, including that 51 Copeland car, which is almost setting the right wheel on fire because it's at such a jaunty angle. Now, how did they get involved? Did somebody clip them, or did they make the mistake? Right. The Alpha hit the Audi, and then and then the 51 car going round the outside of Big Bend, trying to get through the Copeland Motorsport car at Big Bend, then was picked up by the spinning Audi, and that has caused the full course yellow. Send him straight back to the paddock. That car's not going anywhere, Jeremy.
No, that's a shame for the the Olympian snowboarder there, AJ Muss. That team, he in that number 51 car, he and Mason Filippi, they've had some really good results this season. The best was a 4th last time out, in actual fact, after a couple of retirements. But that's really unfortunate for that team. Of course, who this is good news for is the number 94 of Scott Smithson, who, after serving that penalty, was able. I presume yes, he has been in the pit, so he shows having made that drive-through penalty. So he'll have made that now, and he will be still on the same lap, I believe, as the other contenders in TCR.
Now, was there a change of lane by the BMW before the start line? That is an absolute no-no. And it looks like Bill Oberlin did chop across to the right-hand side behind Patrick Gallagher. And there was a bit of movement behind as well. Jeff Mosing was moving around in the 56 Murillo Racing Mercedes-Benz. Shea Adam, right from the start of the season, we've seen race control being particularly hot on that at the start of races.
Yes, and they have already called the penalty on Oberlin. That is car number 95, championship leader, keep in mind. Currently second on the road, going to have to do a drive-through penalty when we go back to green flag. That's kind of a function of when you never start races. You don't really know to hold your lane. But as it is, we've got three TCR cars now behind the wall. The Roadshagger Racing Audi is back there, and 2 Hyundais. The 19, Rory Vanderster, has gone behind the wall. That was... we saw it off the track as well, but it didn't look like that one had any damage. And the 51 of AJ Muss, that Copeland Motorsport Hyundai, back behind the wall as well. No surprise there with that severe right rear suspension damage. But a bit of an uplifting note, because I don't want to give you all this bad news in one pit report. The race strategist for the 54 Hyundai this weekend, that's the Michael Johnson Racing Hyundai, none other than Brian Herta himself. So that crew with a little bit of extra luck on their side this weekend.
Just checking through for the Atlanta Speedworks Honda TCR. It was assessed its drive-through after we'd gone to green. I've not seen that car as being shown in the pit lane after that, before we got into the short yellow.
It didn't, because the message has been deleted from the race control channel, and they don't do that until the penalty has been served.
Right, right, okay, I've still got it on the Alcamel screen here, but we'll wait to see what happens there. But I do have it as showing as being down along pit lane, but I wonder if that was from the start. But we'll see. Let's.
I think that car has, look at my screen here, has entered the pits. That was right before the full course caution.
Okay, excellent. Was called. Thank you, Jeremy. So behind our safety car, we get a chance to take a wee bit of a breath, with still fewer than 8 minutes having been completed, and Patrick Gallagher takes a breather behind the wheel of the Aston Martin Vantage for Not Lad Racing by RS1. That bright orange Aston Martin Vantage with the AMG V8 engine, and right behind him another V8. That's the Bill Oberlin driven Turner Motorsport M4 GT4. Then Hugh Plum with a Chevy Camaro. Oh yeah, that would be a V8, wouldn't it? In the TNT GM Chevy Camaro. 3 cars at the front of the field, all with engines in the front. First mid-engine car is the Audi R8 GT4 with the V10. That is the carbon with Peregrine number at 93. That car sitting in 4th position with Nolan Siegel, a man from Palo Alto, California, behind the wheel of that car. And your top 6 made up by the 2 Murillo Racing Mercedes, the metallic cinnamon coloured cars, 56 and 65. Just having a check back at the start of the race, no doubt about Oberlin moving across, and it did look to me as though it was very close for the first of the 2 Murillo cars. Might have just waited until after the start line. If he did, it's fine. If he didn't, he's going to get called for that. So coming to the restart, down towards Big Bend. Nice restart by the leader, and Bill Oberlin will have been told by Turner Motorsport that he's got to come in. He's got to do it within 3 laps of the green flag. Once once the penalty's been assessed, I suspect he'll want to try and put a couple of laps under his belt so that it spreads out a little bit at the back of the field and he's got half a chance of getting through some of the TCR cars. Because, Jeremy, that is going to cost him an awful lot of real estate, driving down what is normally a flat-out pit straight, but he'll be on the pit lane speed limit. That's going to be painful.
Yeah, and potentially a very, very costly mistake for the championship leader. I mean, they made that call for Bill to qualify the car, but of course, he's probably on restart mode. On the restart, you can do that. At the initial start, you can't. But he starts the car so very rarely. I'm sure it just escaped his mind there. So that was most unfortunate for that team. And comes in here as a championship leader, had a 110-point lead over Sheena Monk and Spencer Piggott, who were in second place, who were 20 ahead of the second of the Turner cars, which is Robbie Foley and Vin Barletta. 10 behind them is Kuno Whitmer, and 10 is equivalent to 1 in old numbers, because of course we have a new point scoring system this season, which is 10 times as many points.
Alpha down the pit lane as well. That was an instant responsibility for that bump with the number 17 Audi, and whilst that was going on, we've got a McLaren in the fence. So the Alpha did get in. This is at the left-hander, I think, and it looks like that car's gone straight on. We're back to full course yellow, but the Alpha being assessed incident responsibility did get into the pit lane before the yellows came out, and it's the Mia McLaren that's gone in round the outside of Big Ben, and Big Bend barely got halfway round it, Jeremy. Understeered off, a little bit of push, and then as soon as you're on the green stuff, that's wet, that's slippery, that wasn't coming back from there.
It wasn't, and just a little bit of inexperience there, I think, from Sheena Monk, just trying to carry too much speed. These Michelin Pilot tyres not fully up to temperature, just a lap or so after the restart here. She just got a bit too brave trying to go around the outside, and that, again, could be a costly mistake for the car that lies second in the points here coming into this weekend. So both of the two leading cars having problems early on, and this looks like a much bigger problem though for the Mia McLaren team, because there's smoke rising from the left front where she impacted the tyre barriers, and she's going to be losing at least one lap, I think, already.
Yeah, and it was an odd one, that. So was there an issue? Sheena came into the braking area, well, maybe got just a little bit too close to the Audi in front and had to change her turning point. And at that point, committed to Big Bend as she was, there was no opportunity for her to bring it back to the right-hand side. Good news, this, every cloud, etc., etc., complete to make a well-known phrase or saying. Good news for Turner Motorsport and Bill Oberlin. Good news for the Alpha as well, that's had to make a drive through, and Roy Block in the KMW Motorsports with TMR, because they will get to close up. We are not quite down to 15 minutes. So will this be another quote-unquote short yellow, or will we go through the whole procedure here of a class split? Bill will be hoping that they go through a class split here, Jeremy.
Yeah, there'll be the class split, I think, in any case. But I can't imagine anybody would need to come into the pit, so I don't think they will be open. I think there'll still be, even though this is a second full caution, I think it'll still be another short one.
Sheena's moving again. She didn't unfasten her seatbelt, but she's fastened the back up again. Do you know, Jeremy, I think she might have got away with that. That doesn't look
at least one lap.
Yeah, but in terms of damage, I don't think there's any suspension damage. I thought that front wheel was almost certain to be pointing in a jaunty angle on the left front. As you say, she's lost a lap, but that car is mobile.
Yeah, I think she's 2 laps down now, and it's going to be awfully difficult to make up 2 laps. Here is a pit stop, though, for number 7 car. It's Alan Brynjolfsson.
No pass around.
In the 10th position here, and also the AWA McLaren, car number 13 in the pits as well, out of, we're 17th.
He's orbling into the pit lane.
Okay, well, so the pits are open then, so these cars will be coming in for a splash of fuel, no doubt about it. So you're right, this it won't therefore be, clearly, I presume it's not a full course caution. Just looking to see what there is on race control.
Well, it's a full course caution, but we have opened the pit shift. Both of the Turner BMWs in, and it will be tyres at least for the 95. I think the 96 was fuel only.
Correct. It was fuel only for Vin Barletta, but left side tires for Bill Auberland. So perhaps they're extending his stint a bit longer than they had originally anticipated. They are checking the Mia McLaren, which has made it back into the pit lane. A lot more black on the side of that what was pristine white and green McLaren. And the door mirror is cracked, but they are giving the sign saying, nope, the arms are crossed. This car is going behind the wall. This does not look good for Mia. Remember, second in the championship. They are going to fall down. This is their first bad race of the season.
That is going to be some kind of steering arm issue, I suspect. The wheel looked, roughly speaking, in the right place, but the mechanic assiduously giving that left front Michelin tyre and wheel a bit of a wiggle. Now, hands across the chest, does that mean there's nothing I can do, or there's nothing that needs to be done? We'll find out in a second.
Nothing I can do.
Well, is she going to turn hard right into the back of the paddock? Yes, she is. Sheena Monk goes into the paddock in that number 3. Mia McLaren. And, well, how hard. It's such a short race, an hour and 44 minutes to go. Second in the championship. But will they be able to get that car out and try and pick up some points? Also pitting the other car that served the drive-through. This is the number 5, Roy Block-driven Alfa Romeo, Shea, and this, basically, they were at the back anyway. They're going to extend that stint as well, it seems.
Splash of fuel for the Alfa. Also into the pit lane was the 17 JDC Unitronic Audi. Looked like they did fuel as well for that car.
So, Jeremy, this is an interesting one. At just over 10 minutes for the second full course yellow, the pit's being opened up. One or two teams rolling the strategy dice here about extending or potentially extending their first pit stop window and how far the opening driver is going to go. I understand it with Bill Auberland because he's a quick driver. That gives them a really interesting conundrum now if we get another full course yellow later on.
Yeah, and the main reason for number 5 car coming in, I think, is because Ryan Block isn't as quick as Tim Lewis Jr. So the good news now is potentially the number 5 car will need less fuel when the next pit stop occurs for the driver change, in which case it can maybe a slightly quicker stop than some of the other contenders. So a good strategic decision by the number 5 team there. And these other guys, like I say, same thing. When they next come in for the pit stop, which will most likely be for the driver change in GS, again, it'll be a shorter stop in terms of the fuel fill required. So this certainly plays very much into the hands of the cars that are further down the order, including the cars that had served a penalty, of course, for various reasons after either the start or the restart. So it really very much plays into their hands, and it's very much to the detriment of the guys who are up the front. Because if you are up towards the front, you don't want to give up that track position, because then it kind of puts you back into the danger zone for the potential of being involved in another incident.
Lights are out on the safety car. It pulls off to the right, and we are back underway with still just over 100 minutes. 102 minutes to go as we went back to the green. Slipping through into second place, the dark grey Chevy Camaro. It's the team TGM. That's the number 46 car of Hugh Plum. Inherited that second position when Bill Auberland, of course, had to serve his penalty. Then it's the car bomb with Peregrine Audi, but Pat Gallagher gets another fantastic start, and Shea Adam has another VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock report, and this one is more penalties.
A penalty for the pole-sitting TCR machine for lining up on the wrong side, resulting in a false start. So it is a drive-through for Tyler Gonzalez in the number 27 Copeland Motorsport Hyundai.
Well, that is a bad day all round so far for Copeland, with 51 bright orange car, bright rear suspension damage in the opening stanza. The exit of Big Bend first time around, better placed car being taken out of the action for a drive through. It's another start infringement. At IMSA Radio, if you'd like to get in touch with us, good to have your comments. And the white and black Copeland Hyundai Veloster is coming out to an empty end of the Sam Posey Straight and into Big Ben. Hello to Michael Wallace says, what's the criteria that goes into circuit length and configuration? I presume you mean because this is such a short track. It's a bit like the Brands Hatch Indy circuit, isn't it? Don't race the prototypes here anymore, although we did back in the day. I remember the Audi R8 prototype with a pass on the grass front. Did Do Capello here in what was its final season in ALMS IMSA competition in those days. Basically, if IMSA wants to race and the circuit's okay, then they come and race. That's the way it works, particularly for these GT races, and more power to their elbow. Around the outside of Big Ben for the Hyundai Elantra was the Harry Gonzaga car making up a position there on the number 84 Brian Henderson driven Atlanta Speedworks. So that's up to second. So Ryan Norman leads for Herta. Harry Gonzaga, I think, just going through into second there in the traffic. They're having a cracking scrap through the back of the GS field at the moment. And that will continue, particularly in the first part of the track where those TCR cars, Jeremy, are exceptionally rapid. They change direction so quickly.
They really do. I'm sure some of the TCR guys were hoping for rain here because of the front-wheel drive cars. They could have quite easily won this race if it was wet overall. I'm talking about. Just by the way, you talked about the back in the old days when the prototypes raced here. The lap record was actually set by PJ Jones in John Ward's Dan Gurney's Eagle Toyota Mark III. 43.1 seconds. The average speed of over 128 miles an hour around here. Those cars around here were absolutely awesome to watch.
And raced by your dad back in the day, Shea, for which you are, I know, incredibly proud every time we see that brass plaque just on the way to our commentary box in the town.
Yeah, always makes me smile to see Tullius and Adam with forever immortalized in the plaque up there. And also another name up there is Wayne Taylor. And I know that it fills Jordan with the same pride now that he's back at the track racing for the first time in a few years at Landmark Park. It's a cool thing when you see your name there.
More side-by-side action, and once again it's Elantra versus Honda. This time the Honda on the outside, going through the left-hander and squeezes through, and that's a change of the lead. So it's Speedworks back to the front, then the two Elantras. They're in behind Ted Giovannis for Team TGM in the chrome blue GT4 car. Now that will be exceptionally quick off the corners, but those TCRs, as we've been mentioning, are very nimble indeed. So Henderson to the point in TCR with still an hour and 37 minutes to go. Now onto the front straight. Henderson's getting a good draft here. Might just try the dive down the inside. A little shallower entry maybe to Big Bend. That's exactly what he does. I think Giovannis just breezed away from the apex to allow that battle in TCR through. Yes, he did. That smart driving by Ted Giovannis. And it's going from bad to worse for Alpha. They're in the pit lane again, Adam.
They get a warning for an improperly attired crew member, but if you don't then fix whatever was not right on your crew member, you get a drive-through penalty, and that's what's happened to Alpha. There were two cars given warnings at the start of the race. the Alpha is the first one to get the penalty.
Speed played out here.
Yeah, far too many mistakes, Jeremy, and this is the place that really punishes you for that. If you get penalties, you're in real problems here. Battle for second position overall, and in GS, Hugh Plum in the other team, TGM Chevy Camaro GT4R. That's the blue and grey car. And he's under pressure now from the car barn by, or with Peregrine, should I say, number 93, with Nolan Siegel driving that car. They are heading under the drive, over bridge and down towards the downhill diving turn at the last right-hander at the track, onto the front straight now. Top three together and pulling away, Jeremy, from Jeff Mosing in 4th position, who's now got the FCP Euro Mercedes AMG behind him, and then Bryce Ward having a cracking run in 6th position, ahead of Tim Probert in 7th. 4 AMG GT4s together there from Jeff Mosing on down.
Yeah, all of those guys are doing a good job there. Jeff Mosing, super to see him running up here towards the front there. As you say, slipping back a little bit from the 3 leaders, and the youngster Nolan Siegel, he's giving Hugh Plum all he can handle in that battle for 2nd place. But hats off to Nate Vincent, a really good run for him in that FCP Euro car. That's a locally based team, locally based drivers, with Nate is from Old Lyme in Connecticut here, and Michael Herzig, his teammate from Granby, Connecticut. So both those two, easily within an hour of the racetrack here. So a super run for them in 5th position. Hats off to Bryce Ward, but also Tim Probert too, who's hanging on there in the 7th position, in 2nd the Murillo cars, car number 65. He's got a big train of cars behind him, but in that train of cars now in 11th position and about to look to pass Russell Ward is Bill Oberlin in that turn of motorsport BMW, making up for that error earlier on when he had to drive through, and now around about the top 10.
Yeah, that will be a drive back par excellence for Bill Oberlin. 4 classes racing here today in 2 races on 2 different versions of Lime Rock Park, because here in the Michelin Pilot Challenge for the Lime Rock Park 120, we are not using the uphill chicane at turns 5A and 5B. It is just the uphill that we are using here, and a number of people back in Europe seeing how much they enjoyed seeing this run without that. Plenty of people, I'm sure, have run various tremendously unsuitable cars in the virtual world around this version of the circuit. Hello to Dave Alcock, who's dropped us a line at IMSA Radio. That's where you'll get in touch with us here at the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. So Gallagher just pulling out a little bit. Pat now 1.1 seconds ahead of a cracking battle for 2nd. Nate Siegel staring at the rear aerofoil of that 2nd place Hugh Plum car. Nolan Siegel, excuse me, in that car. Tom Dyer will take that car over later on in the race. And a problem for the Urban Grid number 71 Camaro. That car with steam coming out of the front. That was off the circuit at the early part of the lap. That looked like the outside of Big Bend, the exit of Big Bend. Was in 7th position. That car will have dropped down a wee bit, and Frank Depew then is moving again. Also, after that incident at turn 1 there, or an incident at turn 1, and Shea, I did see that there was some contact being looked at by race control as well, but that just dropped off my screen.
Yeah, that was between Bill Oberlin and Michael McCann Jr., the number 8 and 95 BMW and Audi, other way around, Audi and BMW respectively. But race control is looking into that. Now, I don't know if Turner hit McCann or if McCann hit BMW, but we shall find out. Race control is still investigating that.
Let's remind ourselves as well that those full course yellows will help the non-pro drivers who started the race to keep on the lead lap, and that is really important for some of these guys on such a short track, Jeremy. And with such a short lap time. I'll come back to you that for a moment. That incident, Shea, has been resolved by race control.
It was the Audi that hit the BMW, incident responsibility, but it's just a warning this time.
Right, okay. Jeremy, so important always for the starting drivers, if they are not the pro drivers, they are told stay out of trouble but stay on the lead lap. 4 miles around at Road America, that's a very different proposition than 1.4 and a bit miles around Lime Rock Park.
It is a very different story indeed, isn't it? You're absolutely right. But this is a super battle we're watching here for second place. But Nolan Siegel, the 16-year-old, regularly drives on the road to Indy in the Coupetage USF 2000 Championship. He took some pole positions there, had some podium finishes, but he's loving the opportunity here to join this Carbahn Peregrine racing team. His dad is a regular in this series as well, and Tom Dyer, the driver coach there, has really done a nice job with Nolan, and he's a really talented youngster, and he's battling away there with one of the most experienced drivers in the field in Hugh Plum there in that number 46 car, who'll be sharing, of course, with his brother Matt. Matt is the most successful driver in this championship with 23 wins to his name, equal to Billy Johnson actually, but Hugh has had 144 starts prior to this weekend. This was the off-course excursion there for Anton Pereira, who was running in the 13th position.
Yeah, and he went off at the exit of turn 1 whilst Jeremy was giving you that information, and he decided that it would be a good idea to potter on through the grass. I think he's got left front suspension damage or steering damage on that Toyota Supra GT4, and that's why he's trying to stay off the racing line. He's certainly got some diffuser issues at the back of the car and into the pit lane. Oh, now let's call this a coup as well. Ori Fadani for AWA, and for McLaren, they weren't too far apart on the track. That might well be a clue. The rubbish on the track flag is out and caught out by the 96 BMW. This is all down at turn 1. 3 cars off the track, including the recovering Audi that was hit earlier on. And the number 27, that's the Copeland Motorsport Hyundai that's already been down pit lane. So there's obviously some fluid on the circuit. All of the top 4 in points having issues. This is a huge moment here, as we're still waiting to see if that Supra gets back to the pit lane. The GS drivers right in the middle of battling TCR cars, of course, now with just under 90 minutes still to go. And this one has been turned upside down, and so potentially, Jeremy, could be the championship after this.
Yeah, absolutely right. Not sure what Frank Dupuy is doing there, weaving around the track to keep this number 393 behind him. Of course, he's trying to protect the number 46 Chevrolet. That's not very sportsmanship like Frank. I don't like that at all, I'm afraid. I think he's trying to help his fellow Chevrolet driver. That's just not necessary at this level of the sport. But now finally, Nolan Siegel's found his way past, so he's going to set sail again, try and catch the 2 leaders. We saw a few laps ago, didn't we, that Patrick Gallup pulled out a little bit over Hugh Plum, but now they're into
another spin, Jeremy, and this time it's the silver GS Audi at Big Bend again at the end of the Sam Posey Straight. Now, who was diving down the inside there? It was a very quick catch indeed by James Vance for Fast MD Racing. It was in with Landry and Russell Ward for Winwood Racing, battling at the bottom end of the top 10. He's rejoined just in front of Ryan Hardwick, so he's dropped 5 or 6 places. That Wright Motorsport Blue number 16 came in 7:18. Meantime, the 21 Supra, I think Shea Adam is going back behind the wall.
Yep, you are correct. It came in, stopped in its pit box. The mechanics jumped over the wall, looked at it, and now we'll be making the hard right-hand turn to go back to the garage area We've got incidents under review, the Turner Motorsport BMW number 96 and car number 64, which was Ted Giovannis in the Team TGM Camaro. So perhaps that's what sent Vin Barletta into that spin, which then involved the TCR cars as well. But that's top 4 in the GS Championship with issues so far today. Sitting 5th in the championship is Jan Halen in the number 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche, which very nearly got caught up with that number 83 Fast MD Audi. So right now, if I'm Wright Motorsport, I'm crossing my fingers, my toes, picking up every lucky possible demon that you can find, because you just want to make it through this one.
Yeah, and they've got the leaders of TCR, Brian Henderson, the Atlanta Speedworks number 84, sitting right in behind them, and the two Hyundais, the two eggshell blue and orange cars that are behind that 84 blue and yellow a Honda, which is coming to the final corner now. That's the top 3 in TCR, and they're right on the tailpipes of Ryan Hardwick for Wright Motorsports. What he doesn't want to do is have to fight those cars around the twisty bits. He just needs to keep going. He's turning into Big Ben now with a decent lead, and off has gone Frank Depew. That's another issue for Depew, and there's heavy damage to the left-hand side of the car. The rookie season released this week, the chronicle of the 2019 Michelin Pilot Challenge year, available on Vimeo to download. Adrian Bonvento doing a cracking job of that inside look at them. This one would not have made a full-length movie. He is already in the tyres at Big Bend. Now, earlier on, there was an issue for the number 21 Supra, and the back end of that car was already damaged. So maybe it was the back rather than the front, but didn't see how that started for the Riley. Then there was a spin for the 96 Turner BMW, which again just looked like the back end was getting around on that car. And then the number 4 Russell Ward driving Winward car had just a little touch that spun around that silver Audi that we mentioned spinning around earlier on. That looked like James Vance did get a tap from Russell Ward. Take a breath, we're back under full course yellow with coming on to 37 minutes having been completed, and Shea Adam, more incidents for race control to look at.
Yeah, race control is going to have their hands full. They did call NFA no further action on the contact between the 83 and the 4, so the Audi and the Mercedes, but they are still looking at the BMW and the Hyundai, for example. But I've just noticed the clock. We are 3.5 minutes shy of minimum drive time, meaning that anybody who comes into pit lane in GS when the pits are open will not have hit minimum drive time. And remember, the cars that came in and did pit stops for the first opportunity of being able to pit, i.e. the second yellow that we have today, those will be well short of drive time because the time spent on pit lane does not count against drive time. But the TCR cars who did not come down the pit lane, they should have hit minimum drive time by the time the pits open for TCR.
Depends how quickly that happens. Jeremy Shaw, who does this benefit, if anyone, that this full course yellow has popped up right now?
Well, it benefits anybody who's had a problem so far, but has managed to stay on the lead lap. And for fans at the racetrack here who are wondering why some of the cars here are passing some others and even passing the safety car, the cars that are doing that are those that were trapped in between the safety car and the class leader in TCRs. We should not see any GS cars passing the safety car, just the TCRs that were trapped in between the safety car and the class leader. And in fact, I think all but the top 3 in TCR had been lapped by the overall race leader, but not by the TCR leader. So therefore, those cars in TCR that had not been lapped by the TCR leader, car number 84, are able to run around and pick up the back of the field. And because of this, I think it's possible that we might get to the 40 minutes before the pits are actually opened. And therefore they will be able to make their driver changes. As Shay quite rightly says, the time spent on pit lane does not count towards a minimum drive time, but the time spent on track, even if it's under safety car, does count. So they will be hoping that we've got another 1 minute and 40 seconds will elapse before the pits are actually opened and the cars come onto the pit lane.
Sarah Rigby up in Crewe in the northwest of England in the United Kingdom, enjoying what she's described as a lively race so far, and enjoying I think that's somewhat of an understatement there, Sarah. Hello to you and Martin at IMSA Radio, and she says, I'm delighted. The striking not lad racing Aston Martin still in P1. It's been a good drive by Pat Gallagher, Jeremy, in fairness, because when all around him has been losing their head, he has very much been able to keep his, even when fighting through traffic.
Yeah, very much so, and it's been a really good performance by him. I'm just looking at the scoring here. I'm not so sure that number 64 and 52 might have taken the pass around when they weren't eligible for it. I'm pretty sure I thought they had been lapped by the race leader, but perhaps they hadn't. I'm hoping they hadn't, otherwise that would be a fairly major penalty. But certainly all the way down, I think, to the car number 54, which is Michael Johnson, who's running 10th in TCR. That includes Roy Block, who's served at least a couple of penalties so far, are still on the lead lap as the Alfa Romeo in TCR.
Shall I not pit for the number 8 Audi? The pits were open, so Michael McCann could have come in.
Minutes.
But he hasn't got the 40 minutes. That's why he hasn't come in.
By literally a few seconds, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Pits were open before he entered the pits. They opened at 44:22. He went through the pits entry line at 45:23. But he is... Oh, now that's interesting, because the pit closed light is still showing at pit close, and yet on the race control channel it's open. Oh, it's closed again. That's why. It's closed again. So the pits were opened and then closed again. So that is why that the Audi did not come in. However, the Nate Vincent car did come into the pit lane. Michael McCann did not. So the FCP Euro car is showing as having gone through the pit. Shea, did it take any kind of service?
I didn't see the stop. Let me check for the amount of time that it spent in the pit lane. It's showing as 35 seconds in the pit lane, so I would think it did just a drive-through.
Pits are now open, and the leader is in the pit lane amongst an absolute throng of GS cars. Shea Adam with this VP Racing Fuel Pit Report.
A TCR car leads overall because pretty much everybody from GS has come into the pit lane, so a very crowded pit lane, as it is not staggered necessarily by class, but rather by whose pit box you share with and where they are in the championship. It is a driver change for the 23, and the driver change is the slowest part of the not lad Aston Martin pit stop. They do have sticker tires for Stephen McAleer, as Patrick Gallagher has gotten out of that car after doing his fine job so far. It is plum to plum in the number 46 team TGM Chevy. Matt taking over for Q. Bill Oberlin is into the pit lane. Now, I think Bill is going to be short on drive time because he did do 2 trips down the pit lane, keep in mind. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. Oh, he's still showing his behind the wheel of the number 95 Turner Motorsport BMW. Not coming into the pit lane was the 64 team TGM Chevy, excuse me, or the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. So we did have 2 cars that stayed out. FCP Euro Mercedes back to the pit lane. This time they have done full service tires and a driver change there. And it is Tom Dyer, Trent Hinman, Eric Foss, Alex Bell, Mikkel Grenier, Andrew Davis, all aboard their respective cars at this point, as now the TCR pits are beginning. This is crazy down here in this pit lane right now.
It looks like the TCR leaders are coming in now as well, Shea, so they will give up the front of the field, except it appears to me as though Brian Henderson in the Atlanta Speedworks, Honda has stayed out, Shay.
Yep, he did. Okay, we've got Parker Chase into the 98 Hyundai for Ryan Norman. We've got Mark Wilkins into the 33 for Harry Gottsacker. Those two driver changes are complete. Chris Miller brought in the 17 Audi. That'll be Mikey Taylor taking it back out onto the racetrack. Taylor Hagler is in the 77, handing over to Michael Lewis, the championship leaders coming into this race. Watch that car. It's going to go flying up through the field. Scott Svensson survived his stint. Now it's Eversley time. We've got Mark Fame in the 81 CB Motorsports Hyundai, handing over to Trent Estep, and an Alpha Land in his Roy Block out, and Tim Lewis Jr. in for that number 5.
Shea Adam with the VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report. They rejoin at the back of the field. So a little bit of scramble there, Jeremy, as one or two teams realised they didn't quite have the 40 minutes minimum done, but we have gone through a cycle of pit stops. Bit of a shake-up for one or two people, but why would the Atlanta Speedworks number 84 car stay out with Brian Henderson at the wheel? I don't get that one.
Well, yeah, good question. I mean, they're going to have the track position now, which is certainly going to be handy for them. But you're right, I guess they must be thinking that they can't get to the end from here. They're going to need another pit stop. So maybe stay out for a while. That's about all I can think of. I think to get to the end from here without any other caution period would be a bit wishful thinking. And because of that, I think that the right call was to come in, because I think if there is another full caution, the TCRs probably can get to the end with just this one pit stop. So yeah, slightly curious. Of course, this caution period, really good news for Ryan Evans, who is the car that crashed. Not the car that crashed yesterday. It's a car that wasn't crashed yesterday, because it was a car that was effectively built up from parts overnight. There's a lot of the electronic systems on that car that aren't functioning as they should, ABS and other electronic aids as well. But for somebody who's the experience of Ryan Eversley, that might not be too much of a handicap, actually. So it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of progress that number 94 car can make once we get back to green and then the final hour and 15 minutes of this race.
And Shea Adam, the GS cars that did take the wave by have come in and made their driver changes as well.
Yes, and we've had Owen Trinkler installed into the 64 Camaro for Team TGM. And we've got Robbie Foley, no, not yet, in the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. It's still Vin Barletta. Vin doing a bit longer of driving duties today because Robbie will be getting out of the GS car, and then he is first up in the GT3 car for the WeatherTech race. So the longer Vin drives, the easier Robbie's back-to-back double will be.
Yeah, but don't forget, Vin Barletta did do the early stop, so that was a bit of extra time that he needed in that car, because he did make the stop in that car. In fact, that we're talking about, Shea is in the pit lane right now.
I love it when they listen and decide to bring the drivers in when we call for them. Already, it is Robbie time. So Robbie's job will be an hour and 13 minutes behind the wheel of the number 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. And this caution has meant that the sister car, the championship leading car coming into the race, has gotten back up in points, but the 96 has a great opportunity to leapfrog the Mia McLaren and get into second in the championship standings today, depending on how the race goes. They are doing a 4-tire change, so 4 new sticker Michelins for Robbie. That'll make him a happy boy. His birthday is in a couple of days, and Robbie, who's from this part of the world, well, not too far away originally, always loves getting the birthday present of racing at Lime Rock Park, and away he goes.
The 71 Erman Grid Camaro from Rebel Rock Racing on the back of the flatbed. We'll give you an update on Frank Depew, the driver's condition, once we get something official from either IMSA or the team. But he is clearly out of the car as the car is on its way back down towards West Bend. There was actually a little cut through there. I think that they could get into the top of the paddock. The class split is going on again, so all the GS cars will cycle to the front, which means everybody who got their lap back will be back on the train. Brian Henderson, remember, did not stop in the Atlanta Speedworks Honda, the number 84 car. It's got the VGMC Racing number 88, or he will have, sitting behind him. And that car has made its pit stop, so he's better off on in terms of... No, check that. That hasn't made a pit stop either, that number 88. So the top two, Jeremy, in TCR, with Victor Gonzalez in second and Brian Henderson in the lead position. Neither of those cars have made their first pit stop yet.
Right. Yeah, I think the Amber 88 car, did that serve? No, it didn't.
Nope.
So yeah, you're right. And the good news is for the number 27 team, they have, in addition to serving their penalty early on for Tyler Gonzalez, well, he lined up on the wrong side of the track, didn't he, at the start?
Correct.
The penalty, the pole sitter in TCR. They're now right back in the fray here.
Tyler Maxson,
currently running in the third position. Tyler Maxson's taken over now from Tyler Gonzalez, and he will be in a very, very good position at restart in that third position behind those two cars that are not yet stopped. And Tim Lewis in the Alfa Romeo is right behind those two as well.
Smashing afternoon with the air temperature and the track temperature rising steadily as we've got just on 70 minutes to go. The Michelin Pilot tyres might be complaining a little bit with 127 degrees Fahrenheit on the track, 84 Fahrenheit in the air. That's 53 degrees Celsius on the track and 29 in the air as we're ready to go back to green. Shuffle back to the front of your seat, your lawn chair, your sofa, wherever you're watching or listening to IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. An amazing pull-out by Stephen McAleer, who goes side by side across the line. Tom Tyre trying to go round the outside into turn number one. Those two battling for second. In behind Dylan McAvan for Turner Motorsport, who leads in the blue and yellow BMW. The Aston and the Audi still side by side through the left-hander. Then it's Matt Plum for Team TGM ahead of Trent Hinman in the bright yellow Volt Aston Martin. Then the metallic cinnamon car is Eric Voss for Murillo Racing in the 56 Mercedes AMG GT4. Wright Motorsports right in it now as well, with Jan Hale in 7th position on the restart. And he's about held that position in the blue Porsche. Great stuff at the early part of this restart as they head round and complete the first lap since we went back to green. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, this is going to be really, really interesting now. There's some super battling going on. Trent Hinman, who set the fastest lap of the race in each of the last two events at Watkins Glen, he's looking to make a move there on the Murillo car, who actually got past him. Eric Foster has got past Trent Hinman. So the Mercedes there up a position, Trent Hinman down the position, and it's Trent Hinman who's had quite a bit of success here at Limoc in the past, and he's got some positions to make up now. So this is a fascinating contest is unfolding.
More penalties today than the European Championship final last weekend. Adam, what's the latest?
Too soon for that, John, isn't it? All right, I'll start in the order that they were delivered. Car number 83, that's the CB Motorsport car, Trenton Estep, speeding on the pit lane. It was either him or Mark Brown. I'm not assigning blame to either one of them. 1 kilometer an hour over the limit earns you a drive-through penalty. Car number 94, Atlanta Speedworks, running their light at pit exit. So it was red and they saw green and went anyway. That is a stop and 60 seconds. And Jeremy noticed that cars were doing the pass around when they shouldn't have been. The 65 of Brent Mosing, now Tim Prober for the start. Improper pass around, which means you do a drive-through, but you stop at the end of the pit lane and you spend some valuable time with Richard, 1 minute and 51 seconds to be exact.
It's 3 laps. It's going to be 3 laps, isn't it, pretty much, by the time. It is a punitive penalty because you get such an advantage of getting back onto the lead lap. Eagle-eyed Jeremy Shaw spotted it when it was going on. Wasn't sure. I should say, by the way, that race control tells the teams that the it is time to do the pass around. They don't read out the set of numbers. That is up to the teams and the drivers to work out whether they are eligible for it. They should know the rules, and the drivers and teams have got to communicate, and if you don't, it is a huge penalty, and that's what's happened there. Dylan McAvern then leading down No Name Straight towards the uphill, and it is the full uphill, just nips in towards the apex in front of the BMW, almost popping off the ground as he heads down towards West Bend, and now under the Haggerty and Motul Bridge as he dives down through the final right-hander and back onto the start-finish line. Very, very evenly matched at the front of the field, even though Stephen McAleer, Jeremy, has got a little bit of an advantage sitting in the hole in the air, being punched by the BMW in that Notland Racing Aston Martin. He can't make a meaningful charge on the brakes at the end of the Sam Posey straight. Once again, chapeau to the balance of performance here by IMSA Technical. Marvellous stuff at the front of the field.
Yeah, brilliant. It's absolutely tremendous. I'm not quite sure how number 65 there would have got a penalty, because that should have been on the lead lap. Certainly when he came in along with everybody else for the pit stop. So I don't know what happened there, how they managed to incur a penalty, because they should be on the lead lap in any case. So odd, don't know.
Was it the 56 then? Was the 56 on the lead lap?
Yeah, they were both on the lead lap.
Okay.
Yeah, 56 was in 4th position, and the 65 was in 10th when we went under caution. So yeah, not quite sure what happened there. Must have been after the pit stops and getting ready for the restart. So
correct.
I'm curious, don't know.
It's Jeremy Shaw with me in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre. I'm John Hindhaugh. Shea Adam is getting all of the information from the teams down in the pit paddock as our VP Racing Fuel pit reporter. Just on 65 minutes still to run. Here's how it stands. TCR Brian Henderson yet to make his first stop for Atlanta Speedworks. But remember, we have had a number of interruptions by the safety car. So he'll easily be able to go to and probably beyond the 1 hour to go marker. These TCRs normally split it down the middle of these 2-hour races. He's got just 0.3 of a second from the Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsport Audi number 17. What a turnaround in fortune it's been for that car. Driven into early on when Chris Miller was driving, then off the track when Chris Miller was driving. Mikey Taylor, now the South African, sitting in a strong second position ahead of Tyler Maxson for Copeland Motorsports, and they've had a penalty as well. So it's not been a straightforward race for the guys at the front of TCR. At the front of GS, Dylan McAvern leading, but just Stephen McAleer, Turner Motorsport, number 95 BMW. Crest to rise at the uphill. The bright orange and yellow Notland Aston Martin, Stephen McAleer in second, then the car bomb with Peregrine Audi, that's the dark grey and green car. More dark grey, but this time with blue and shocking pink on it, is Matt Plum in the Team TGM Chevy Camaro. Last time around at turn 1, side-by-side action in the Big Bend as the 17 of Mikey Taylor went through and has taken the lead in TCR and broken the toe. That's impressive to do that against a very evenly balanced TCR team, and I wonder now if Brian Henderson's just, Jeremy, beginning to suffer in these exceptionally hot track temperatures with well into triple digits in the Fahrenheit scale, with his front Michelin's maybe just starting to go away a little bit, with everyone around him, of course, having taken a stop.
Yeah, brilliant though, isn't it? I mean, we've got an 8-car train here of TCRs. They're battling for the TCR lead. As you say, Mikey Taylor's gone through into the lead, but the big long train behind him and for the lead of the race. Again, we've got 9 cars, I think it is, and with 6 different manufacturers, all pretty much nose to tail for the lead as well. It's fantastic. So BMW, Aston Martin, Audi, Chevrolet, Mercedes, all the top 5 are all different. There's another Aston, then the Porsche, Jan Halen, and then another couple of Mercedes on that train of cars, including 2 Whitwood cars, with Michael Renier making his debut this weekend Ian Carter before, sharing with Russell Ward into Doncha, not making a trip from Europe for this weekend.
Yeah, and a quick note about a couple of things. Frank Depew, we're hearing from the team now. Robert Liddell has reported Frank's okay after that incident with the 71. We wish him all the best. And Jeremy talking about Indy Doncha and Europe. Thoughts certainly and sympathies going with everybody in Germany and Belgium. Absolutely terrible flash floods there over the last couple of days. Death toll, I'm afraid, mounting there. And around two places that we as endurance fans know very well indeed, Spa-Francorchamps and that area taking a pounding, and also the Eiffel Mountains, the Nürburgring and the Nordschleife, Adenauer being hit pretty hard as well. There are a couple of appeals going, including one that's been started by the Nürburgring Nordschleife. The local fire brigade have started a public appeal for public donations. I know that you get asked a lot nowadays, but as race fans, those people in our areas of the world that we watch the racing at, if you can spare a little bit, then please go and find out about that and see what you can do to help, and we'll send them all our best wishes across this weekend. The WEC, of course, at Monza in Italy this weekend, and we'll have full coverage of that 6-hour race tomorrow over on RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. Johnny Palmer and Bruce Jones taking lead commentary duties for that, the final race before Le Mans. And local interest there with two Glickenhaus LMH cars for the first time in a World Endurance Championship race as they continue their road to Le Mans. Cars built in Danbury, just down the road from Lime Rock Park. Half distance then in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, Lime Rock 120, and a cracking battle for the lead. It's nip and tuck. Yes, they're playing full of my leader, but trust me, all of these drivers, Jeremy, are on the absolute ragged edge right now.
Yeah, brilliant race up to the front here, and you know, BMW, Aston Martin, Audi, Chevrolet, Mercedes, and then the second, the Alfa. That's that 6-car train that is out front there. Just the one manufacturer with two cars in that initial train. Tremendous to see, and they do seem very, very closely matched. I mean, just the IMSA technical team, hats off once again to them for creating this equality among manufacturers, and some really quality drivers out there as well in that big train. Same for TCR, I have to say. But this is a really, really fun race at the moment, and boy, what a turnaround for the number 95 team. Having had that penalty early on, put it right to the back of the pack, they've come all the way through. Called great strategy, took a splash of fuel earlier on in the second caution period. That meant that the driver change stop was a little bit quicker than some of the others, because we didn't need quite as much fuel. And Dylan McAvern, championship leader, of course, coming into this weekend, back at the front there, and with every intention of hanging on to it. And for Dylan, he's from Charlotte, Vermont, so this is kind of one of his home tracks as well.
Yeah, Bill Oberlin, we know that car was quick. He qualified it, put it on the front row, but changed lanes at the start, had to come in for the drive-through in the 95 BMW. Jeremy was talking about there for Turner Motorsport. That kind of made them have to think slightly differently. So when the first caution came out, they splashed, and that's given them the opportunity here to get back into the fight, and they've done that with bells on, lead at the moment by 0.2 of a second. If you VP Racing Fuel update on the cars out and behind the wall in a moment, but let's check in with TCR. Mikey Taylor leading by almost a full second now from Parker Chase. That's the 17 Unitronic Audi, the white and yellow car from Parker Chase, and his teammate Michael Lewis, the two eggshell blue Hyundai Elantra and Veloster 98-77. They're going across the line now. Then it's Tyler Maxson for Copeland Motorsports in the white and black number 27 Veloster. Then Mark Wilkins in the 33 Elantra. Then the Atlanta Speedworks number 84. That car really falling back now in the hands of Brian Henderson, but remember, has not made a stop. So well into the second hour, and therefore with much older tyres. Yes, it will be a lot lighter, less fuel, but certainly having worked, particularly its front Michelin Pilot tyres, much harder than the cars around it. But everyone in TCR still has one stop to make. Let's just remind ourselves of that. The 84 Atlanta Speedworks car, which elected to stay out and keep the track position, they have to make a long stop. They'll do tyres and a full tank of fuel. Everyone else will need some fuel, not necessarily a full tank. But a yellow flag now for the 84 would put them right back in contention. Shea Adam, I promised you the opportunity to give us an update from VP Racing Fuel on who's gone behind the wall and who's gone back to the awnings.
Well, we have a few official retirements. The 3 Motorsport in action. The Mia McLaren is done for the day after that contact in turn 1. The Toyota number 21, that's the new car, remember? The one that came from Canada. That too will not be reappearing on the racetrack. And the 71 Rebel Rock Camaro also done for the day. We still have the 51 Copeland Motorsport Hyundai. That was the one with the right rear suspension damage back behind the wall. Rory Vanderster from the Vanderster Racing Hyundai. That too back behind the wall. I believe that is an engine-related issue that they are trying to rectify there. We have Ori Fidani in the AWA McLaren, not yet reappeared on the track, and the Fast MD Racing Audi. That too has gone behind the wall after the contact in turn 1 with the number 4 Windward Mercedes, and another car just going back behind the wall. Most recently, the number 81 CB Motorsports Hyundai. They got a penalty for speeding on the pit lane 1 kilometer an hour over the limit. They chose to go back behind the wall. Not sure if they're going to reappear, but the Roadstagger Racing Audi that did not take the green flag is back out and circulating. They've already done 14 laps and regained 3 valuable championship positions.
I was going to say that. I noticed that they'd come back out again, and you might ask why when you've lost so much time. Well, there was the answer for Shea Adam. They're up to 12th in class now, as we've got a battle for the lead of the motor race, side by side, through the left-hander and round the outside, on the high side. What a manoeuvre that was. Brave, bold and committed by Stephen McAleer in the Not Land Racing by RS1 Aston Martin. It required a bit of respect as well by Dylan McAvern. Marvellous stuff at the front of the field. That's been planned and schemed for quite some time, Jeremy. And now that Stephen McAleer has gone through, he has pulled a little bit of a gap. In fact, the BMW in second also pulling away from Tom Dyer, who's got his hands full with half a dozen cars sitting in his wheel tracks.
Yeah, Roy, and that's the number 96 car coming out of the pits.
Correct, Robbie Foley.
Why were they pitting then, I wonder? Because that's another car that's very well placed in the championship. That's the third in the championship. It had been running in the towards the tail of the train, but still on the lead lap. Now Foley's a lap down, and perhaps going to be able to help his teammate here. Yeah, he is. He's defending there very robustly from the third place car, Tom Dyer. Yeah, okay. At least he's fast enough to do that, unlike what we saw earlier on in this race. So teammates there running second and third on the road to Tony Motorsports BMW, but one of them, the second of them, number 96, is a lap down to the leaders now.
And I can't imagine running second and third on the road with the Aston ahead of them. I can't imagine that they can do 53 minutes on fuel, but I've been wrong before, Jeremy. We've seen how a soft foot can make a huge difference. Lift and coast is not a phrase or saying that I really associate with Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, of course, John. And so sorry, with 52 minutes remaining, that is why the number 96 car came in when it did, because it was the tail end of the lead lap cars. It was not making any progress because overtaking is very difficult here. So he has now made his final stop, and I think you're right. All the other GS leaders, particularly if it goes green all the way, not even going to be close to making it to the end. So they're all going to have to make a stop. The number 96 car has already made its stop. Yes, it's a lap down, but it will get back on the lead lap when everybody else comes in as well. Number 14, Riley Motorsports, Toyota, same strategy. That is in the pits now, out of the 10th position.
Yeah, that Supra for Riley Motorsports, the GT4, the Toyota Super GR Gazoo Racing GT4, brought in by Alfredo Negri and taken out here by Sasha Fenestres with full service, presumably.
Correct. It was fuel and tires by the looks of it, but it looks like it might have only been left side tires, as their stop was slightly faster than the Turner Motorsport stop. Slightly less fuel needed to be taken aboard by the Toyota, but the Toyota staying ahead of the pack critically, not going a lap down.
Right, okay.
For Sasha Fenestres, what an opener this place is. Sasha is he's Argentinian / French, so dual nationality, I think, for Sasha, but a very, very talented young man indeed. He's been making a name for himself first of all in Europe, and then the last few years in Japan as an open-wheel driver, and in fact a versatile driver, because he's been driving in the Japanese sports car series as well, having a lot of success. But he's still only 21 years of age. He is Sasha, originally from Cordoba in Argentina, but now from Annecy in France. And that South American connection is what got him this opportunity in this number 14 Riley Motorsports car, sharing this weekend with Alfredo Negri from the Dominican Republic.
Left side tires worked earlier for Bill Opperland, so they are giving left side tires to his teammate Dylan McIver, going out in the 95, the final stop for the Turner Taco Mobile. Oh no, wait, this one doesn't have tacos written on the side. It's still a Taco Mobile in spirit. That stop is done. Where does Dylan come back out? He is ahead of the pack, so that bodes well for Turner Motorsport.
Yeah, and they have to do this now, Jeremy, and we'll start to see some of the leaders. In fact, they are now. Let's get back to Shea for this, because we're seeing some of the leading cars in GS coming in, because they can't afford to get caught if there is the deployment of the safety car. So Shea, we've got Team TGM and the Volt Racing Brynjolfsson car in the pit lane.
It's fuel only for the Team TGM machine. They share a pit box with Chevrolet, with the Corvette Racing, I should say, and the Chevrolet Spirit going strong between the two teams, meaning that they get the ideal pit box to leave, because Corvette Racing is leading the championship in GTLM. So fuel only for them, fuel and tires for the Volt Racing Aston Martin. That is Ken Hinman still behind the wheel, but that took a little bit longer to do the tires, meaning that TGM, which led very narrowly over Hinman coming into the pit lane, leaves with quite a bit more of a gap. As also into the pit lane, the number 93 Carbon with Peregrine Racing Audi. Tom Dyer will be staying aboard with a question there. Did they just watch? Did Steve Dinan just see how much ground that Michael Johnson led Aston Martin did lose by taking tires? They are not taking tires for the Carbon Audi, fuel only. So they are mimicking the geniuses down at TGM rather than the geniuses down at Volt.
Yeah, and I just was trying to see where they dropped in there, because McAvan was ahead of them as they came out. The AudiTireCentre.com supported Carbon Audi number 93 coming back out of pit lane. Tom Dyer behind the wheel of that dark grey and highlighted green car out to Big Ben again. So this is the confusing part of the race. We're still waiting for Stephen McAleer to come in from the front of the field in the Notland Racing Aston Martin. Bright orange number 23 leads now by 3.5 seconds from Eric Voss in the 56 Mercedes. That's the chrome cinnamon coloured car. Michel Grenier for Winward Racing now in the number 4 car is in third position with their team with Jan Halen, for Wright Motorsport, splitting them from their teammate. That was the sentence I was trying to formulate there. Alec Udell in 5th position, and FCP Euro, first of the team that's been down the pit lane twice, but they've had at least one penalty, so I don't think they've done their second pit stop at the moment. So still waiting to see how this shakes out, as through comes the leader now with right on his tailpipes, Jeremy, the Turner BMW number 96, Robbie Foley, who is a half a car's length away from getting his lap back to the leader. Crucial times.
Yeah, and crucial times indeed, and risky now for the cars at the front that have not yet made their pit stops, because everybody can get to the end from here comfortably after making this splash of fuel and or taking on tyres. Do you want a faster car, or do you want the track position? Because track position you will get if you don't change tyres, but a faster car you'll have if you do change tyres. So it's a very tricky decision to make. Do you take on 4 tyres, 2 tyres, even 1 tyre here at Linebrook, conceivably? But it's fascinating strategies now. But by staying out, if there is a full course caution, that will not be good news for our race leader, Steve Mackey. We see the second place car, Eric Foss, moves off into pit lane, as does the number 16 car of Jan Halen. So those two elected to make their pit stops now. At least Maclear and Grenier now is in second place, and Michael Herzgen in third place for FCP Euro, and Owen Trinkler, number 64, yet to make their second stops.
Yeah, when was Owen? When did Owen take over that car?
Everyone else came in,
Yeah,
John.
yeah, absolutely. So he's been out there for 29 laps at the moment. We've seen some 31 lap runs, but not an awful lot have gone through full green, of course. Hello to Alan Prosser, as he says, is it particularly bumpy around Lime Rock Park at IMSA Reggio? Notes from the onboards, the drivers are tapping the brakes to eliminate pad not off. You use a lot of curb here, Alan, a lot of curb here. We've got the leader in from GS Share and the top cars in from TCR. Take it away.
This is lefts only for Stephen McAleer, and waiting on the fuel at this point, so they're not losing any time with the stop. But the Notlad team not changing all four, just changing 2. In TCR, finally Brian Henderson comes into the pit lane and hands over to Robert Noaker. This is fuel, and I don't think they did any tire. Well, they might have done the front tires, actually. The car was up on the air jacks,
Front's
but I
correct.
didn't see any tire change going on, so I would assume it was the fronts. I did actually get one interesting tidbit. Wright Motorsport changed the left rear tire only and did fuel when they brought Jan Halen in. So we've seen left sides, we've seen no tires, and now we've seen 1 tire. And Owen Trinkler, by the way, did come into the pit lane. Fuel for him as well.
44 minutes for that car. So now, as the old saying goes, if you're a track and field aficionado, you'll understand what I mean by I say this. So now we're going to see how the stagger unwinds. Lots of different strategies being played out, but ultimately now at the front of the field, everybody, apart from I think the first couple of cars, have made their final stops, Jeremy. So we are going to see the races that we are watching now are the races that will continue right through the checkered flag.
Indeed so, and where are the TCR cars going to finish in this race? Because they're going to be leading very, very shortly when Michael Herzgen, who's leading the race right now for FCP Euro in the Mercedes car number 11, he's going to need a pit stop, as is Elevan Goulart in the Autotechnic Racing BMW. 2 home teams there. Great to see them out front now. Car 52 in second position, making that team's Autotechnic Racing's debut in the championship. To be running in the first and second position of those two is just brilliant news. But right behind them, as Goulart comes into pits now, is Mikey Taylor in the TCR leading Unitronic JDC Miller Motorsports Audi. But he's now got his hands full with Parker Chase on his tail. That is going to be potentially the battle for the lead very, very shortly.
And I'm trying to work out then who's in the best position of the GS cars, because it has all been shaken up. I reckon when this all comes out, Alec Udell might be leading this motor race in the 57 Winward AMG GT4 car, because he's definitely made his last stop. It was just a couple of laps, or 3 laps ago, and at the moment he's sitting in 8th position behind the TCR teams. And I'll take that under advisement if anybody wants to argue with that at IMSA Radio or here in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. But I think that Winward are going to end up first and second when this shakes out, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think they are, and but they're going to have a train of cars not too far behind them. There's a massive train behind Jan Halen in the number 16. Unfortunately, coming past the start-finish line now. Right behind Halen is Matt Plum, Dylan McAvoy and Sasha Belastraz. In that Riley Motorsports Toyota, he's right in that, and then the two Aston Martins, Trent Hinman and Stephen McAleer. So, God, boy, this is going to be a fabulous race. And the TCR leader, he's about almost 20 seconds ahead of Alec Liddell. We've got 40 minutes remaining. Yeah, I think they're probably going to be caught by the end of the race. But this is going to be fun.
Well, let's add another variable into this year, because we've been saying all through this race that track position is so important here at Lime Rock Park. I'm not sure why Winward would do this, but those last stops for both Alec Liddell in the number 57 and Michel Grenier in the number 4 Winward racing car were very, very quick indeed.
They must be praying for a lot of yellow at the end of this race. Liddell was in the pit lane for 31 seconds, Grenier for 34. Compare that to third place on the track, Eric Foss, who came in and pitted not too long before them. 41 seconds in the pit lane for Foss, 38 for Dyer, 41 for Halen, 43 for Plum. Now remember, Plum pitted quite a bit ahead of those two. But still, I'm seeing 44, 49, 47, a lot longer stops than those top three, which tells me that the Mercedes short field to get the position, but they're also doing their yellow dance.
Well, what's their lap times at the moment? 56 seconds, 55 seconds, 55.8, 55.6. They're in traffic, and when you're in traffic, you can only go as fast as the people around them. So if they are saving fuel, they will have had to have made that an absolute priority from the moment they came out, passed for position, as the Volt Aston Martin tries to go round the outside of the number 14 Supra. That's the battle for 9th and 10th. Asher Fenestraz and Trent Hinman battling it out in respectively the Supra and the Aston Martin. At the moment, Fenestraz just about holding on to that position, and it seems that pitting early, Jeremy, didn't really work out. The cars that have staying out didn't really work. The cars that pitted early did get what the F1 guys call the undercut. Look how far back down that line of cars now the bright orange Not Lad Racing Aston is.
Yeah, but it's a function of what they did rather than when they came in, I think,
right.
Probably more than anything else, what they did during that pit stop. And this is certainly a tremendously exciting race. I think we've got, it's going to be unfolding here right now. By the way, just a change from second position in TCR, Michael Lewis, the championship leader, of course, along with Taylor Hagler, who've had some string of fantastic results this season. They've been on the podium each of the last 4 races, and they were 4th in the opening round of the season, so it's been a great season. Number 77 pairing. They've just got ahead of their teammate, but they are in a Veloster. Parker Chase is in Lancia for the Hyundai Brian Herbert Motorsport team, but they just exchanged positions second and third. Right behind them also is Tyler Maxson and for Copeland Motorsports in the Hyundai, and secondly in Lancia is Mark Wilkins. So all the big long train there, and only a couple of seconds behind them is the Alpha of Tim Lewis, who's lost a bit of ground early on, but now seems to be closing a little bit. Have to wait and see whether that is just traffic or what.
Yeah, and was quicker than the cars ahead of him all the way up to Michael Lewis in second place that last time around. Michael Lewis, who loves this place, is very good at qualifying here. I seem to remember not too very long ago held pole position for the longest time, and I mean pole position overall ahead of the GS cars, and was only usurped in the dying moments of the GS qualifying with a big collective sigh from everybody who was sitting in a GT4 car. He really drives this circuit very well indeed. That's the battle for TCR that Jeremy was talking about. Still at the front of the field, Michael Hersin is leading for FCP Euro in that Mercedes, and as far as how much fuel he's got left, answer, not very much. He's been out there for 40 laps, of which the first 5 were under full course yellow, so that's getting on for 40 minutes in fact, a bit more than that. He therefore may well need a will need to come back down along pit lane for the end of the race. Again, side by side through the left-hander, and this time the left-hander, it's called the left-hander, this time it's two Astons, and this time it's Trent Hinman defending, and might just, and off goes the Elantra. I think that's the 98 Elantra that's gone off at the top of the uphill, right in front of that battle. It is indeed, it's Parker Chase who's gone in nose first. If he can't get that car running, that'll be a full course caution and everything changes again. He was right up with the battle at the front of the field, can't get reverse, battling for the front of the TCR field. Now that's a very fast uphill section there, and it's blind on the entry, and the full course yellow is out. Full course yellow is out, had to come out with the back end of that Elantra a bit longer than the Veloster, and that is sticking out on the track. And Parker Chase, his battle at the front of the field is done for the day, and this rolls the dice once again, Jeremy Shaw.
Well, yeah, and certainly, it's Michael Herzen. He's going to need to make his pit stop now. He's going to fall to the back of the pack. Well, unless he can, 35 minutes remaining. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a particularly long caution period. I don't think there's any way he can get to the end. So he'll fall to the back of the pack, but he will at least stay on the lead lap, and he'll be able to change tyres if they want, and he'll be able to go for it from there. We'll be back in the, I think, 15th or 16th position. 14th or 15th position in GS, but super run for the FCT Euro seem to be out in front now. This is going to hand the lead to Mikey Taylor. However, this is kind of good news for the GS field, because there will be a class split now, in which case the GS cars will go ahead of all the TCRs. So the TCRs will be able to continue their battle, but there's only 4 of them now, I think, in that lead train, because the number 54 car had lost a lap a little while ago. Not quite sure why, but they're going to be still battling for position, but now behind the GS cars. That's a very costly incident there for number 98 car in terms of the championship. Came in here, Parker Chase third in the points, just 20 behind Ryan Eversley in the number 94 car. Where is number 94 car? Not running. We're a couple of laps down.
Ryan Eversley sitting in 10th in TCR at the moment for the Atlanta Speedworks Honda Civic. So this is the number 98 Hyundai Veloster, sitting second in the championship, as you've heard from Jeremy. Went in hard at turn number 5, the uphill, has left front suspension and steering damage on what is normally a pristine set of bodywork prepared by Brian Herter Autosport, and that is disappointing in the extreme for Parker Chase and the rest of the team. I don't think he's even going to stop at his pit, Shea Adam. He'll go straight through. Oh, he has actually stopped at his pit, but that, in terms of any meaningful points, is day done. And with only 34 minutes left, this is not the opportunity to chase back as the Roadshagger Racing Audi has done, Shea.
No, and exactly the problem for the Roadshagger Racing Audi is there's not really enough time left to try and get up to the position to be able to pass, to leapfrog this 98 when they are third in the championship for Parker Chase, at least. And the 61, the Roadshagger Racing Audi is fourth, only 50 points behind that Hyundai. So it's tantalizing now. Roadshagger has a goal, but they need it to not be yellow to try and get back more laps. They are still 11 behind the 81, which will be one more position for them to reclaim. But the 77 and the 93, or excuse me, the 77 and Ryan Eversley driving the 94 are still leading the way, and they are both still out and circulating. The championship leaders currently sitting second on the road.
Now, Jeremy Shaw's been looking back through the data that we've got and through his lap charts, and just before the yellow flag, the 33 Hyundai Elantra Mark Wilkins, that had been out for the better part of 40 minutes, pitted just before that yellow flag. Now, when did he start that session then? 10 minutes before the top of the hour, so that would have been quite close, I would have thought, to be able to get to the end from there. Not discounting, Jeremy, that he might have been involved in the incident, but he got in before the pits closed. So, yes, he's lost a bit of time and a bit of ground, but there are a few people who stopped just before the hour in the TCR, aren't there?
Yeah, but the question is, I don't think he would have needed to stop. But as you say, there's only, I think, 5 cars on the lead lap now in TCR. So if he came in and take on fresh starts, number 98 car is in. The pits were closed. There's going to be a penalty, but severe damage. They're not really relevant to the outcome of the race. Certainly is to the championship aspirations for Parker Chase, but not for this race. But number 33 car, yeah, did it come in? Was that a strategic decision, or was it involved in some way in that incident for its teammate car, number 33, that was just a position or two, perhaps? I think number 27 car was in between them before that incident took place at the uphill. So maybe we can have whether we get another look and see exactly what happened there for the number 98, because it's a kind of an odd place to go off.
Not if you're side by side. Yeah, I was going to say, not if you're two TCRs side by side and running out of room rather rapidly. Just some good news for a change from pit lane area. The Kuno Whitmer and Ori Fidani AWA McLaren has come back out from behind the wall, so they're going to try and get some extra time in and some extra laps in. Great to see such a family orientated audience here on the bank sides, enjoying the sunshine here at Lime Rock Park. Thank you for coming to visit here on Saturday. Another race still to come, of course, with the Northwest Grand Prix for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Corvette versus Porsche at the front of the field, and then all the GT3 cars as well. Shea Adam can give us an Hyundai update with the 98 and the 33 causing us to ask questions.
Yep, down in the Hyundai world, Jeremy noticed that the 33 did come into the pit lane. It was not the result of any sort of damage. It was just fuel and tires for Mark Wilkins trying to give the Canadian the best opportunity he can to win this race. And now, of course, the other Hyundai is coming into the pit lane, which means Wilkins will inherit the lead because Mikey Taylor in the 17 Audi, Michael Lewis in the 77 Hyundai, Tyler Maxson in the 27 Hyundai, and Tim Lewis in the 5 Alfa Romeo, all down the pit lane. Looks like fuel and tires for all of them as well, or at the very least the Audi. So this is an interesting call to try and get that 33 machine back to the head of the field, and it might just work out. It's a broken damper, by the way, for the sister car, the number 98. They are fixing it on the pit lane. They are optimistic about getting the car back out before the end of this race. Tyler Maxson is fuel only for the Copeland Motorsport Hyundai.
Wow, what a few minutes for everybody. And don't forget that incident for the number 98 Hyundai with Parker Chase on board. That was right in front of what was the battle for the effective battle for the lead as they were coming through. So as they've cycled through, the FCP Euro Mercedes will go to the front of the field, and Michael Hersin will be scored as the overall leader. He's still got a bit of a gap between himself and Alec Udell for Winward Racing. Eric Foss has got in between the two Winward cars, so it's 11, 57, 56 and 4. Those are the top 4 Mercedes for, in order, FCP Euro, Winward the number 57, Murillo 56 and Winward the number 4. Those are your top 4 as it stands. And Jeremy, did that pit stop gamble pay off for the number 33 Hyundai crew? Have they in fact gone round while everybody else was pit stopped?
Yeah, no, I think so. That should be leading the race now in TCR. It'll be at the back of the pack of the GS cars when we get ready for the restart. Yeah, no, I think it'll lead the class, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see what happens. Number 61 car is kind of second on the road in TCR, but many laps down, so not a factor in this race. But good work by that team to get out and try and get some valuable championship points. They came into this weekend 4th in the points, a couple of 120 in old money behind the leaders in the TCR points chase.
Yeah, so 33, the Hyundai Elantra, the fastback coupe style four-door car, is the leader in TCR. That is the eggshell blue number 33, just going through the uphill now. The dark grey car 61 in second is not in the fight. So in second is the 77 Brian Herter Autosport Veloster. Then it's the Alfa Romeo Giulietta, the number 5 car, in third position. And that is Tim Lewis driving that car now. Then the white and yellow Unitronic JDC Miller Audi RS3, the number 17, with Mikey Taylor behind the wheel. They've had an up and down day, but they've been amongst it. Then it's Tyler Maxson for Copeland Motorsports, the number 27. That's the black and white Copeland car. Remember, the orange one went out early on with right rear suspension damage. And the top 6 in TCR, the number 84. That is Robert Noaker in the Atlanta Speedworks Honda Civic, the blue and yellow car, with the VGMC Racing number 88. And that is another Whitmer, but this time that is Carl Whitmer from Montreal. And that is the top 7 in TCR. Jeremy.
And the number 84 and number 88, both they had been a lap down because the leaders came into the pits there in TCR. Yeah. They're able to get back onto the lead lap. So great news there for the Atlanta Speedway team. Robert Noaker, one of the youngsters in this field, super quick is Robert. He's already had a couple of poles this season, 17 years of age, from Duncannon in Pennsylvania. So he and Brian Henderson, who started on the front row, that car's been on the front row of the grid in all but one of the races this season, now back in contention. Carl Whitmer, great to see Carl here. He's the youngest of 4 Whitmer brothers, and he's got this opportunity with the VGMC team. Didn't do the last race, made his debut first to Watkins Bender.
At the green, Jeremy.
Back on the lead lap.
And down towards the first corner, the restart. Hersin then leads for MCP Euro in the lighter coloured Mercedes AMG GT4. Alec Yadel hunting him, trying to hunt him down in second position as they go through with a few cars that are out of position in there as well, including one of the BMWs. That is the 52 car, isn't it, that's going through there, the Autotechnic racing machine. That's a lap off the pace, just trying to get that lap back, in fact, as they go through. Also in there is one of the Audis, which is a lap down as well. So that will be the McCann Racing Andrew Davies number 8 car. Oh, big blocking manoeuvre by the Murillo Racing AMG. That was I think that was Eric Voss right in front of Jan Halen. Alec Yadel right in there as well, pulled right across. I thought he was going into the pits at one stage there. And he's got the silver Mercedes in behind him. So Voss, I think, has gone through to the lead there, the effective lead in the 56. Let me check that again. So many cars that are out of position in the field. Hersin still out there holding the lead, but owing us a pit stop, we believe. How far can he go? Meantime, the Supra, Sasha Fenestras having a look down the inside of Dylan McAvern at the West Bend, and he's through. Now he's looking even further forward at Michel Grenier for Windward Racing. That's the battle for 8th position, and immediately Grenier, the red in the white, red and blue AMG, going down into Big Ben now, and the Supra's right round the outside. Fenestras, absolutely phenomenal manoeuvre. Little touch there, there was a puff of Michelin tyre smoke, and the Supra's on the grass for a moment. Little bit of a hip and shoulder from those two. Here comes the BMW, right in behind them. That's Robbie Foley and Dylan McAvern, the two Turner BMWs, hunting as a pair now. Then Trent Hinman for Volt Racing with Archangel in the bright yellow Aston Martin, and in behind there, Owen Trinkler back in the game as well now in the 64. All of those cars down to 13th overall on the lead lap in GS. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, and the number 4 car kind of got mugged there at the restart. Grenier, he was fourth at the restart. He's now down in what, eighth position, I think, in car number 4. So that was a rude awakening for Mikel there. But a super restart there for Michael Hersey. He's hanging on in the lead. But what battling was going on here? Just tremendous stuff. And this is a wide open race. But all of a sudden now we've got 3 Mercedes at the front. And they've got a bit of a VOP break coming into this race. They actually, the Mercedes actually had to add 5 kilos of weight, and they had to raise the car's ride height a little bit. But much more importantly, they've got a different chip in the car, which gives them more boost, more power, and they're taking advantage of that right now as Eric Foss puts the pressure on Michael Hersey for the lead. This race is going to take it, I think, at West Bend.
Yeah. Hersey been holding everyone up. He's been out there a lot longer. His Michelin tyres don't quite have the performance of everybody out there. Had a really feather in the middle of the final right-hander at the downhill at the end of the lap, and he's going to be a sitting duck. Next to go by will be Andrew Davis. He's a lap down in the McCann Racing Audi, and then everyone else is queuing up. 21 minutes to go. How much fuel have you got? How fast dare you go? What throttle and fuel map are you on? Davis through, has unlapped himself, but not quite yet from the leader. Hoping for a late race yellow, but only if he can get past Eric Foss, who's cycled through the front and now leads by almost 2 seconds on Hersin, who shows no inclination to peel off into the pit lane. Lovely exit from the uphill, by the way, as Jeremy was describing that pass for the lead at West Bend. Hersin, I think, struggling with a bit of rear grip there in that number 11 FCP Euro white, red and blue car, and just couldn't get up the hill, and then couldn't get it turned in at West Bend. He's got a little bit of breathing room now before Alec Yedel for Winward in what looks a fairly standard looking number 57. That's the silver EMG GT4, just with a little bit of black on the front wings. That car sitting at the moment in 3rd position. The right Motorsport is the light blue and black Porsche, number 16, but also with a big number 1 on the side. That's Jan Heerlen. Yes, that Jan Heerlen, former single-seater superstar. And he is in a real battle now with a very quick Stephen McAleer, who has been really charging his way through, Jeremy, since that restart. McAleer on a tear and has gone through into 4th position.
Yeah, he took the restart in 8th position, and is making really good progress. He's been one of the few guys who really makes some moves here, and by contrast, Trent Hinman in the other Aston Martin, he's not been able to work his way forward. But for Eric Foss here running out front, that would be a tremendous result for that team. He and Jeff both, they've got 6 wins in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series. However, none since moving up to GS. So last week came at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park way back in 2017, when they were still running in ST. But this team has been just remarkably consistent over the years, Eric Foss and Jeff Bosing. They've had a whole string of good results. They've had, I reckon, 46 top 10s and 23 top 5s in the last 59 races, dating all the way back to 2015, so back into the ST days. And as I say, looking for their first win in 4 years, and out front now, got a pretty handy margin with Michael Hersey still holding on to Alec Yedel for 2nd place. Hats off again, though, to Michael Hersey and Nate Vincent, who did the stint in this number 11 car. They've done a really, really nice job.
Meantime, it's been a bad day for Fast MD. Audi number 83 for Alex Papadopoulos from James Vance has gone behind the wall, working in a closed pit stop, plus 60 for the 98 Hyundai. We knew that was coming at the start of the race. Bill Orbel got the pit. Oh, hang on a second, Shea. Oh, that's such a shame. Alec Yedel is off. Excuse me, not Alec Yedel, it's the number 4 car. That's Michel Grenier, who's had an awful restart and been shuffled back, and he is off at the left-hander and way off. Not quite as far as the car wash, but not far away from that. Shea, quickly, at the start of the race, we were looking at what had happened to the 56 Murillo racing car, and it looked like that had broken ranks as well as Bill Oberlin. But I said it was pretty close on the start line. What's the news from race control?
The answer unsure as to why there was a penalty for Oberlin, but not for Jeff Mosing, when it looked like Jeff did the same thing pulling over in front of his team car. Both actions were done before the start-finish line after watching it a few times. So kind of perplexing as to that call. Good news, though, the number 4 Windward Mercedes has continued around the track, although it has lost a lot of positions.
Yeah, Grenier just hasn't had the pace since that restart. Alec Udell and Grenier effectively in the effective lead of the race. Now, I've said that, but Hersin is still out there. He's been out there for getting close to an hour now since that FCP Euro car was last in the pits. Now, that is an extraordinary light right foot for Grenier. We've seen this before. You can soft pedal these cars, and he has had 14 laps of yellow in that 1 hour, or if you prefer, in those 57 laps. So only 43 green flag laps. They add up rather quickly here, but it's Eric Foss that's leading, and he's using Hersin in the FCP Euro car at the moment, which is obviously running, Jeremy, at a pace, and it's now 6.7 seconds. Check that, 6.9 seconds for Voss, and Udell's got to get past. To have any chance of winning now, Udell's got to get past that number 11 Mercedes in front of him.
Yeah, he has, and I think even though he's going to have a hard time, 60 minutes remaining in this race, so that's only less than 20 laps, to close down 7 seconds, a pretty tall order, but it's still been a really good run for that half of the Windward operation. Meanwhile, in the TCR, it's still very much game on. Mikey Taylor leads Tim Lewis Jr. Talked about that Alfa Romeo up into second position now, and in the big train of cars. In fact, I think they're all dicing with Owen Trinkler is in that mix, that battle now in the number 64 Team TGM Chevrolet. Great stuff.
Magnificent again. The Michelin Pilot Challenge is delivering great entertainment, great excitement, fabulous racing. Now it's Jan Heerlen who's trying to make the move. As they go into the uphill, he pulls out towards West Bend, gets down the inside of the Audi ahead of him. No, not quite. Tom Dyer holds on to that position. It's been a brilliant run by Stephen Magalier. Such a talent, and great to see him getting some good drives. And he now up into 4th position, which surely will become a podium at the very least when Hersin has to pull off. And in fact, he's not even waiting for that. He's up alongside, round the outside of the left-hander at turn 3, and goes through. And Udell can't hold on to that one. And the Aston, the Not Lad Aston, is absolutely the car to have at the moment. Now he is some 8 seconds, making that nearly 9 seconds behind Eric Voss. He can't, can he? He's going to have to dispense with Hersin in the FCP Euro car very quickly indeed. As Matt Flood rather loses a couple of positions to Sasha Fenestras and Trent Hindman, respectively in the Supra and the bright yellow Bolt car. Here comes the bright orange Aston Martin, goes to the outside, then to the inside of the first part of turn 1. Beautiful over and under manoeuvre. And Magalier is up into second place. I'll be asking my co-hosts for their Michelin moment of the race in both TCR and in GS. And it could be that Stephen Magalier is driving his way towards that award at the end of the next 13.5 minutes time. It's been an outstanding run. Remember this, it's 8.9 seconds, the gap between first and second. We have 13 minutes to go, and that Aston Martin has been released. It is on full rich, full afterburners, and it has been phaser set to stun, I think. Now, can he draw down that nearly 9 seconds lead on the Murillo racing car of Eric Voss, which uses, of course, the same engine, different state of tune from the Aston Martin. They work a little bit with the interior of that as well, but certainly different electronics on that car. And Jan Heerlen now suffering Jeremy Shaw in that mid-pack. It does seem to be, if you lose one spot, you might lose 2 or 3.
Yeah, or 4 or 5 even. I mean, there's a huge train of cars there battling for what is now, well, 3rd position there behind Stephen McAleer. The answer to your question, no. I think, unless it's a full course caution, I don't think McAleer is going to catch Eric Foss, and hats off to that team. They probably would get mine on for the corner of the race just to get that car out front like they've done, and now Eric has taken for their first GS win. A remarkable day for Murillo Racing, but it's this tremendous racing going on here all the way through, and in TCR too, there's a big battle going on there as well with the top 5 cars absolutely nose to tail in TCR.
It was 8.9 seconds. It's now 7.6 seconds between first and second, but time is not on the side of Not Lad Racing by RS1, not on the side of the Aston Martin Vantage driver Stephen McAleer. Eric Foss will be looking up the road. He'll be asking his team to tell him what's ahead of the number 56 car. And off! That is again at the uphill, and that again, well, this could bring out another yellow. It's the 57 that's gone around. That's Alec Udell, who was in 4th position. And I think there was a bit, I don't think there was any contact there. It looked like he just lost grip from the rear end. And we've seen a little bit of that going on at various stages today. Udell's got it back into 1st gear for the Tecamet car. 11 minutes to go. All of its wheels, I think, are still on it. Waiting to see if he gets going. Trent Hinman having a look to make up a position. That would be for 4th. Hersin defending. But that car, I mean, this is an extraordinary run by Hersin. He's dropped off the podium now, Jeremy, but he's really made his fuel last. They rolled the dice earlier on, and that FCP Euro car is right there. Now, Udell, did he get a little tap? Oh, might have. It was close. Very hard to say. It was up on the curb for the FCP car on the inside. Can't see the right-hand side of the car. There's damage to the rear. He's trailing a bit of bodywork. That's going to drop them way out of contention, off the lead lap and out of the top 10 in GS as the leaders sweep by in TCR. Unitronic Audi, what a run they're having. Up and down, tipped into a spin early on, then a drive through, leading from the 2 Lewises, not related.
But look at all these TCR cars. They're dicing for what is effectively 4th position overall. Well, actually 3rd position overall. There's a little bit of a gap to Michael Hersen in 5th, but then there's a whole. Look, they've just gone past one of the Telemotorsports BMWs. That's Dylan McAvoy who leads the championship and is running in the 10th position overall. We're going to see a TCR car win this race. No, I don't think we are, but they're right there. It's brilliant.
Yeah, just sitting outside the top 10 overall at the moment, the leader in TCR. As Jeremy says, they've shown good pace today. Inside 10 minutes to go, and the battles for the positions behind Eric Foss are continuing. Jan Heelan's established himself as much as you can say that in 3rd. So it's Voss for Murillo and Mercedes, the 56. That's the metallic cinnamon car. Then the Not Lad Racing bright orange Aston Martin in 2nd. Then Jan Heelan in the bright blue Porsche Cayman GT4 car. Then the TCR cars beginning to plunder their way through towards the top 10 overall. And as Jeremy says, they've got pace at the end, whereas the GS cars do seem to be struggling a little bit, Jeremy. They've all been out there quite a long time, and I think they're using their tyres, their Michelin tyres, very differently from the TCRs. And the lap times are beginning to go out for the front of the field.
Yeah, we during that caution period, what 15, almost 20 minutes ago, we saw those TCR cars come in and take on fresh Michelin tyres, most of them. So they're certainly taking advantage of that. All sorts of shuffling. I think Tom Dyer got muscled out from a couple of positions a lap or 2 ago in the number 93 Audi, but he's still hanging in there now, trying to find a way past Michael Hergen. And hats off here to Sasha van der Straat, making his North American debut, actually, certainly in this championship, in that Riley Motorsports Toyota number 14. He's trying to make a move on Tom Dyer to come through West Bend and down into the downhill corner. But tell you what, the alignment, that'll be a real eye-opener for Sasha. But what a job he has done. Both of those two now past Michael Hergen, who's continued to slip down the order.
Hergen just lost a couple of places. He's been out there for 68 laps though, Jeremy, on those tyres now. At least that, we assume that he got a full set of new Michelin Pilots. He had only been out for a lap before he came back in at the last pit stop, so they were just tinkering around under the yellow flags there, deciding what to do. And so maybe they did absolutely top that car off as much as they could and hope for a bit of yellow. They've got it, but I think Michael Hersen now is going to struggle to stay in the top 10 with Matt Plum, Robbie Foley coming towards him, and the TCRs, by the way, as well. Now that won't affect his points paying position for GS. Meantime, at the front of the field, Eric Voss has taken time out of Stephen McAleer. It's just got up to 7.2 seconds. And they're lapped on almost exactly the same lap time last time past the start finish line. 56.1 for both first and second, 56 and 55 for third and fourth. Now they did have to deal with a bit of traffic, but that's what I was talking about. And here come the TCRs. They're lapping in 56s and 55 off at the exit of Big Bend. That's the number 93 grass cutting. That's Tom Dyer. He was fifth for Carbon, so he is going to lose a whole heap of real estate, and certainly Matt Plum's gone through and he was down in 8th. So looks like Tom's dropped at least a couple of 3 places, and we've got a slow moving TCR as well. That was the Honda, Jeremy, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Carl Whitman there, but big changes in TCR. Last couple of laps, Michael Lewis first of all overtook the Alpha of Tim Lewis, no relation, and now on this last time he's got past Mikey Taylor as well. So the championship leader, Michael Lewis, in car number 77, won this championship a couple of years ago, of course, along with his teammate Ben. Mark Wilkins is in the lead of the race in TCR.
And Wilkins is right up the tailpipes of the Alpha as well as they come out of Big Bend. The dark coloured Alpha with the light blue and red Hyundai in behind it. In front of it, it's the yellow, black and white number 17 Audi. So that's the battle for first on down in TCR. First to fifth, those TCR cars now coming through No Name Straight and up to the uphill. They are all battling for position, and they've got GS cars ahead of them, and that's 9th place overall. That's Robbie Foley for Turner Motorsport, who they're right up with there as they jostle for position. No quarter Astor given inside the last 5 minutes. What's the gap at the front of the field? Still 7 seconds. Eric Voss holding off Stephen McAleer.
Super consistent for Eric Voss out in front of this wheel. A former champion, of course, in the S2 class. He knows exactly how to get the job done, and he'll be relishing this time at the front of the field, of course, particularly with this lead. But super consistent driver. I mean, he's lapping pretty much all of his laps are around about 56.2 seconds. Tremendous drive for Eric Voss.
I actually don't know where to look. I actually don't know where to look. And, you know, a moment or two ago, we had the Carbon car off at the exit of turn 1. He rejoins, having gone off at the second part of Big Bend. He comes on just after the left-hander, having done a bit of grass cutting. It's clearly a lot drier there than it was earlier on, but loses, 3 places in the process. Drops down from 5th down to 8th position. Oh, Turner in trouble. It's the 95 BMW. Oh, Dylan McAvern was 13th, trying to get some positions back up, and that car is on the green. And again, that is in that area of the track, left-hander, right-hander before No Name Straight. Oh, huge slide as well by the number 77, for the number 77. And that is the leading Michael Lewis, Brian Herder, Autosport. Hyundai lost the back end there, might have had a little tap from the second place car. And I think they've gone through. Yes, that's a change of position. So the 77 Veloster now in behind the red and white Copeland car. That's Tyler Maxson, who's fought his way through to the front. No, it's not. That's the 54, excuse me. So was that a car coming back? But certainly a huge slide by the 77. And the Alfa now right in behind Michael Lewis. So KMW Motorsports right there, Jeremy.
Was that the other Copeland car that was in that battle? I missed it, to be honest. But it's been a tremendous battle here in TCR. Yeah, it was the other car, number 50.
I think it was the Stephen Simpson car, actually, which was getting a lap back. That's what's happened. That's what happened. So not a pass for the lead. Kind of in misreading what he saw in front of him is not really a headline, is it? Let's be honest. But there's so much going on. However, I think that is the BMW going behind the leading pair. Yes, it is. So TCR first and second, now 9th and 10th overall, and still having their battle. There's a minute 16 to go. The TCR cars showing really good pace at the end of this race when some of the GS cars are eking out their fuel and their Michelin Pilot tyres. We're coming down to the last 60 seconds. It looks as though the Dylan McIvern Turner car is going to be left on the grass to driver's right. There's been waved yellows. It's going to stay there. Everybody's seen it. Here's the battle at the front of the field. Murillo Racing have gone through. There's McAleer going across the line now. It's 8.7 seconds. Jan Helen has got his mirrors full of Trent Hinman. They're coming through to cross the line. Down towards turn 1. Sasha Fenestraz has dropped back just a little bit. In 5th position, Hersin holding on still the 6th position ahead of Hugh Plum for Team TGM. What a run that's been for FCP Euro. And in the battle at the front of the TCR field, that Simpson car that has gone through is holding up the leaders, but it's going to be a win at the Line Rock 120 in the Michelin Pilot Challenge for Mercedes AMG for Murillo Racing. And they go through. The 56 car takes the lead, the win. Eric Foss finishing off what Jeff Mosing started. McAleer comes through for a fighting second place. Halen just holds on for Wright Motorsport for Porsche on the podium. And then the battle for TCR coming through the final corner now, and it's just going to be Hyundai. Or is it a big draft towards the finish line? Here comes the Alfa. Oh, barely a length behind. And the Alfa can't get up, but will take second. My goodness, how close was that? They were 8th and 9th, and there was barely a 10th of a second in it for the win in TCR. So we have to wait a little while longer to have the repeat of the opening race here in 1957 when Ted Sprigg won in the Giulietta. 2nd place for AWA. What a brilliant run for them. Oh, goodness me. Jeremy Shaw, your thoughts on fabulous wins in both classes, but frankly, fabulous entertainment and racing right the way through.
Just brilliant. And the number 46 and 93, Matt Plum and Tom Dyer, absolutely side by side. I mean, that really was a photo finish. It was for 6th position, directly ahead of those TCR leaders, also side by side. The Lewises is no relations. Michael won it by 0.134 of a second over the Alfa. But what a great run for that KMW Motorsports with TMR Engineering Alfa Romeo team. They've had all sorts of bad luck. They came super close to the win there. That was a great result for them.
And Jeremy, right at the end, the FCP Euro car, I think, has run out of fuel. And it's a disaster for Hersin and the team. They were running in the top 6. And they have dropped down to 11th place in class, and way down for that car. what a shame for them. They haven't managed to get that car to the end and finish a lap off the pace. That car grinding to a halt as the try for them, as they had gone some 76 laps. 76 laps since they last stopped for fuel. Let's quickly take our moments of the race. Jeremy, I think in GS you've put forward Murillo for that last pit stop sequence that got them into the lead and eventually gave them the race.
I mean, it was a great run through the first stint by Jeff Mosing. They've had not a lot of good luck this season, but they've had some good consistent top 10 finishes, as they always do. But it was a brilliant drive there by Eric Foss, and that strategy to get him into the lead. That's all Eric Foss needs, is to be in the lead of the race. Then he can work his magic from there. And great to see for the first time in a long time, Eric Foss taking that checkered flag and the team's first win, I think, in GS.
Very honourable mention for Stephen McAleer and Not Lad Racing. They had pace right the way through that. Didn't get the rub of the green in terms of where they came out after that. And also for Jan Halen and Wright Motorsport, that was a fighting third for those guys as well. In TCR, well, you could have given it to any one of the top, but I think for the quiet run, and we daren't mention them half the time, the Alfa Romeo Giulietta, for their first podium, get the Michelin moment of the race in TCR. And got to mention as well in GS, FCP Euro, so close in GS. Very quickly, Jeremy, have you done any points before we wrap up?
I haven't, to be honest.
Okay.
But I'll do that momentarily. But that FCP team, just the last 2 laps they fell back, but they did complete the whole race distance. They did complete all 112 laps, and still ahead on that last lap, even though they ground to a halt out at Big Bend. They did finish ahead of Owen Trinkler, top 10 in the class. That, again, a brilliant strategic call by the FCP Euro team. So if we haven't already given it to the number 56, honourable mentions there. Also to number 14 team, a great result also for them in the top 5 for the first time for Toyota.
So are you changing now, Jeremy? You want to give it to FCP now?
I'm putting it forward for if do we want it is a majority vote, but those 2 will be my top 2 votes.
Okay.
And
well,
you and Shay have your go for it.
We'll give it to FCP Euro because they're not on the podium. It's not about necessarily who wins, but we'll give it to FCP Euro then for that daring strategy. It didn't quite play out for them, but that's what we like to see, people doing slightly different things. And in TCR, well done to AWA. They'll get it for the Alfa Romeo and their drive onto the podium for the first time. Congratulations to them.
Congratulations, man.
We're going to take a breath, go and lie down in a darkened room, because we've got to do it all again for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in not too long. We'll be back with the Michelin countdown to green. We'll hand you back, if you're at the circuit here at Lime Rock Park, to our commentary colleagues after Jeremy gives us a quick run through the points.
Well, I think that Jan Halen is going to be finishing third today at 1,540 points. Bill Omlin and Dylan McAvoy were off at the end. They finished 16th. I reckon they got 1,540 as well. I think we've got a tie for the lead in GS. That's a very, very quick mathematical summary from here.
Thank you, Jeremy. Shea Adam was our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. Jeremy Shaw with me, John Hindhoff, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. I really do need a drink after that, and I need to get my heart rate down just a little bit. Once again, it has delivered great entertainment. Michelin Pilot Challenge and the Lime Rock 120 in the books here on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Bye for now.